now. Say the obvious prediction right now.
The Stars are going to win the Stanley Cup.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sarcastic Remarks. Alongside James to my right, Chris to my left. My name is Ryan. We are the official Dallas Stars pod of THPN. Go ahead and use that promo code THPN the next time you go and use DraftKings Sportsbook. Hey gentlemen, last night was my fault. Sunday night was sort of kind of my fault, but also if we were just didn't think about it. This is your Sunday night podcast on Tuesday night.
Yeah. Special edition. It's like that Monday Night Football game that happened on a Thursday. Y'all remember that? That was crazy.
Or like Sunday Night Football on Saturday night when they in the playoffs or whatever. It's just ridiculous. Anyways, we're really excited to get with you guys here today. But first off, James, how you doing?
I'm a little sick, but other than that, pretty good.
Appreciate you doing this, even though you are feeling sick. I'm sorry.
It's all
Chris?
right.
I'm great. Let's talk about hockey.
Yep.
Please.
Let's talk about hockey because there's a lot going on and we got some new stuff to talk about as well. But we obviously got to jump into the first thing because I was the only one.
Correct. We have to do the first thing first. He's right. Sorry, had to. Moving on. Anyway.
Dude, we're like 3 minutes in and you're already making fun of me. I hate you.
Sorry, that one was tough.
Anyways, the Madonna statue. Y'all weren't able to do the episode with me on Saturday night. I had to do it alone and convulse in my memories alone. What did y'all think of the Madonna statue? It's pretty good, right?
I really like it. I was hoping they would do the Stanley Cup trophy, the iconic Madonna photo of him holding it up and just looking to the sky. But this one really makes sense as focusing more on him as an individual player. And they really encompassed Madonna in the pose that he took, with the flapping jersey, doing the crossover. Even my wife Ellie, who never watched Madonna, just saw the highlight reel package before they unveiled the jersey. She was like, "That's a really that pose makes sense for him. It seems like that really encapsulated him as a player." And yeah, it was a good pick. Not my number one, but it makes sense, especially when you look next to Dirk, who is doing his iconic shot. So you have Madonna doing his iconic crossover towards the net.
James, what do you think?
Good statue. Looks pretty.
What did y'all think about the colors on it? Because I was not expecting as prominent colors featured on it.
Yeah, that is a good point, Chris. I was not expecting that either. I guess just because, Dirk's statue, does it have a lot of color on Dirk's statue?
I think his jersey is colored the same way. I
Okay.
never really thought about it before until I saw
Right,
Madonna's,
exactly.
but I kind of love it. I think it makes these unique to other statutes at other arenas. Because like the players themselves are still all in bronze, but then you've got their jerseys that are colored. I don't know. I think it makes it unique, and I think I like it.
I love it too. The colors really make it pop, and I really do appreciate that they didn't try to put the new logo on Madonna or something like that. I kind of thought just because it's a
Oh, that would have been
vintage
horrible.
logo now. Yeah, I thought it would have been like, "Ugh, come on." I was halfway scared they were gonna do that. They didn't. They used the iconic one that he mostly wore, and they also didn't do the black one that I have, the black jersey one that I have, the college looking jersey that just says Dallas as an arc.
They
I'm
did the
glad
one that
didn't
he
go
was
with that.
wearing when they won the cup,
Yes.
which is the correct
So-
one to do. It was absolutely perfectly executed, and it makes me feel better now that it makes Madonna feel more separated from the rest of the people on that team to me, which I feel like is appropriate.
I'm so excited to see it in person. When I get the opportunity to, I really hope I get to see it in person. And man,
It'll be hard to miss it.
Yeah, it is hard to miss it. From what I understand, the thing is enormous. The
looks
base
massive.
alone is huge. So there was an episode that just dropped of Podman Rush that I think Dan Sutrell, I think is his name. He's kind of the guy that kind of put the whole thing together. I mean, this has been like a 2-year process, guys, at least a year and a half. So I think it's awesome that they got the guy to come onto the podcast, and I just kind of talk about the whole experience. I have not listened to it yet, but I'm really excited to. And honestly, guys, there's no one who deserves it more than Mike Madonna. As much as we love Jamie Benn, as much as we love, Brendan Morrow, who are face of the franchises after Mike Madonna is Dallas Stars hockey. He is the epitome of Dallas Stars hockey.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but he built hockey here. Without Mike Madonna, hockey in Dallas is not near to what it is now. We're probably not talking about it. So yeah, he made hockey in Texas, and there's not going to be anyone more important, I think, ever in this franchise's history than Mike Madonna. Even if there's a crazy dynasty that happens, he still made hockey what it is in Texas.
I think it's really going to be hard to eclipse that legend status that he has. Now, maybe one of these players can, if they can win a cup here in the next couple of years, maybe like a Mira Heiskanen, or maybe we're seeing it now with Wyatt Johnston. I don't know. Maybe Wyatt Johnston.
I think Jamie Benn's still not off the table. You put a couple of cups banners up in that building, who knows?
That's true. So what I also wanted to ask you guys is, did you get a chance to watch the game itself or not really?
Yeah, we watched the game. Or I watched the game.
Okay.
I don't know if James did.
James, did you watch the game?
I listened to a lot of it, but I didn't watch any of it.
Okay. So did you get a chance to see the video package right before he made his speech during the first intermission? Okay. You should, if you haven't seen it, you really need to go watch it. It is on YouTube. It's also on the Dallas Stars website as well. So, Chris, let me get your thoughts on that though. When you saw all the flashes of his career and just watching him in that video package, what were the thoughts or the emotions that were coming to you?
Yeah, a lot of nostalgia. I mean, Mike Madonna was my favorite player when I barely knew what hockey was, when I could barely talk. I knew who Mike Madonna was, and I knew he was my favorite player. So, yeah, I was pretty emotional. I didn't cry, but I was close. So I was pretty emotional that watching that whole package. And yeah, I'm just happy that we finally got the statue for him, and it's well deserved, and he'll always be my favorite hockey player.
James, did you get the chance to hear Madonna's speech at all?
I did hear his speech. I was listening to the whole ceremony. I just couldn't watch it. But yeah, really this isn't as big of a deal for me as it is for y'all because I don't remember hardly any of it. I mean, the parts of Madonna that I remember was when he got hurt and it was a big deal, like because it had an impact on a lot of our family too, just because that was who y'all liked watching. So I remember him getting injured, but his speech really showed not just like the fan base does care for him. Obviously, they're putting up a statue, but he cares for this team as well a lot, and you can feel that through what he said.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna take some of the comments that are already coming after James. And yeah, he works for Minnesota now. That's where he lives. He wants to work where he lives. It makes sense, okay? He still talked about during that speech and even on his posts afterwards how much he loves and appreciates Stars fans. And I fully believe it. He just wants to work where he lives. Calm down. He's not a traitor.
The thing that really got me was when Razor said, "You want to hear from the man?" And then he introduced him, and then he couldn't talk for like 2 minutes. And it's just the roar of the crowd. And you could just, he's an emotional guy to begin with. But that was so cool. That's happened a couple of times at a couple of different ceremonies when he's been honored, when like especially his jersey retirement ceremony. But man, it was so cool to look at that, and I just got absolute chills and goosebumps when I just saw the camera angles, just looking at the crowd, looking at Madonna. Was really cool. And I was completely in the feels. I still think my favorite moment was hearing Ralph call the game against the San Jose Sharks when he became the greatest American scorer. I mean, every time I hear that, it's like the perfect call that it's just like when you hear Gary Thorne, who used to do the stuff for THP, and I'm kind of dating myself a little bit, when Brett Hall scored the goal to win the Stanley Cup. And he said, "The stars are shining." Every time I hear that line, I get goosebumps. It was the same thing. So considering that the Stars have been struggling a little bit as of late, that was something that I personally needed a lot.
Yeah.
Just to be selfish.
You're definitely right there, Ryan. Those two calls I wasn't even alive for the Deep in the Heart of Texas, the Stars Are Shining call. And that's still probably the number one call that I think of when I think of the Stars.
All right. Going on from there, I did want to ask you all this because I thought this was really interesting. So, did y'all listen to the Steve Dangle podcast at all recently?
No.
Okay, this will be fun then. Let's do a little bit of trivia then, because they did this, and I don't think that any of them got it right. I knew the answers, obviously, because I'm a Dallas Stars nerd. There are 6 players who have their jersey retired by the Dallas Stars. Can you name all 6 of them without looking it up?
No.
I'll give you the North Stars. Masterton.
Okay, Masterton. That was one of the ones that they didn't get.
Neil Broughton.
Okay. It's 2.
Zubov.
Zubov is another.
Lettinen.
Yep.
Madonna.
One more. Come on, Chris, finish it off. It's one that a lot of casual Stars fans might not know. You have to be super hardcore to know this one.
Is it a defenseman?
It's from the Minnesota North Stars days. I will say that.
Oh, it's another. I thought I got all the Minnesota North Stars off the bat.
Nope. They're including Madonna. There's 3.
I don't know.
Bill Goldsworthy.
Gosh darn.
Goldsworthy. Yep. That they didn't even know who that was.
No, he was like when the North Stars started.
Yes, pretty much. No. He was from the 70s and 80s. And they were super confused because the guy Jesse was kind of giving them hints, and he said one of the numbers retired. He only played for 1 season, and it was like the 66-67 season, like way back in the 60s. And that was Bill Masterton, because he unfortunately passed away. That's why his jersey was retired. but still not bad, Chris. That's pretty good. I'm surprised you remembered the very first one, Masterton.
Masterton.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty good. Okay. Anyways, moving on. We got to talk about some actual like Dallas Stars news stuff because looks like Tyler Seguin is probably going to play tomorrow. He was out skating today on a line with none other than Matt Duchene and Mason Marchment. What are y'all expecting from him coming back into the lineup, assuming he plays tomorrow night?
Yeah, boy, do we need him. I mean, we talked about all year. Man, this line is so consistent, just night in, night out, putting up points. Seguin gets hurt, fall off a cliff. I mean, that's crazy. I did not think that Seguin was going to be that impactful to that line, honestly. But it really proves that this again is not just from Matt Duchene. It's from Seguin changing the way he plays, like we talked about him needing to do. He's getting to scoring areas before other people, and he's not relying on his speed and his skill. He's relying on his mind. So it is really encouraging to me that Seguin can continue this moving forward, and it's not just a one-year fluke because Matt Duchene lit a fire under him.
Yeah, and it's also a testament to the synergy of the line as a whole too. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw this with the top line before as well. When one of them goes down in years previous, that whole line just struggled immensely until that person returned, and it's been worse with Seguin out for the second line. I mean, it really feels like that line has to be together to be able to get points, because even when you're talking like Duchene was out for a couple of games, that line disappeared again. I mean, it doesn't matter who it really is on that line. If one of them's out, it just doesn't work.
And that's crazy to think because earlier in the season, like you said, Chris, when this line was just flying, going ridiculous, we all thought that Matt Duchene was the catalyst because we had seen in previous years that Seguin and Marchment had been tried together, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't synergist, if that makes any sense. It wasn't like it wasn't like really, really good, which is what it is with all three of those guys together. So I'm really excited to see Seguin back. I'm right here with Zachary over here. I'm trying to set myself up to be patient. I would assume it's going to take a couple of games for them to get going again, but so happy to see that line flying again. Absolutely agreed. And I think it's also going to, you're going to have to really be patient because we don't know where Seguin is at health wise. Is he 80%? Is he a full 100% ready to go? Is he just trying to get in because, the playoffs are coming up or whatever? Not sure where he is, if he percentage wise, if on the health factor, but I think we are going to have to be very patient and make sure that we just kind of tamper our expectations a little bit for this first game.
Yeah, in my opinion, he better be pretty near 100%. I mean, we're not really in danger of missing the playoffs here. We are in probably the tightest race in the league for the top of the division, and we saw what happened last year whenever we pushed hard for it. So I think if he needs to be at least 95% if he's coming back, in my opinion. I hope DeBoer is not letting him go if he's any less than that.
And some of that can come down to he's been out for a while now. And
11 games.
Can see, yeah, it's been a good chunk of games now without Tyler Seguin, and you can see how it affected his line, and that's going to affect Seguin as well and his want to get back in. I mean, when the line that has just been clicking constantly just disappears and you're not there, it really feels like you are hurting the team by not being there, even if that's not the case.
Well, moving forward, I hope that we see some more synergy between those three guys, because when those three guys are together, they're arguably the Stars' best line. And honestly, recently, the Stars' best line has not been even the top line. Sometimes it's been the third line of Stanky, Johnston and Ben, and other times it's been even the fourth line. The fourth line has been our best line in some games.
Yeah.
So it would be so cool to get all four of those lines rolling, and then each and every single line is proven over the course of this, despite the Stars kind of playing rough, that they can get some offense from all four lines.
Yeah, and it's going to be nice, especially on the top three lines, to feel like those are really fleshed out, not having to have Delandria play up higher where he hasn't been effective this year. It'll be nice to see if we can lock in those lines and figure out the offensive problems that we've been having and keep going from there and not have to worry about changing them.
And then here's the good point on this too. We have not seen Stankoven in the lineup with Seguin. So they won't play together unless they play like on the second power play unit or something like that. But it's going to be really interesting to see, on that third line, seeing Stankoven with who he's been playing with, and seeing Seguin up there, and
yeah,
that gets me excited.
Seguin coming back makes it look like three incredibly dangerous lines.
Mm-hmm. Okay, speaking of incredibly dangerous, Hakanpää, big old 6'5" buddy. Bo buddy. He is listed as day-to-day. So what that tells me is I think we're going to hear some choo-choo train noise from the Nils Lundkvist crowd. Looks like he's going to get into the lineup for the first time in a while since the acquisition of Chris Tanev, without there being 7 defensemen, I should say. And this, we keep saying it, and we've said it multiple times. We've been complaining about Hakanpää and his play, and Stars fans have been complaining about Hakanpää and his play as well. He's obviously the number 6 defenseman right now. Hakanpää is. This is his chance to grab it by the horns and stay in the lineup. But he's really gonna have to show it this time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's going to take a massive jump from Nils to take that spot from him, mainly just because of the size. I mean, the advantage that you have with size when you go into the playoffs is massive. So Nils is going to have to show not just that he can be better defensively at 5-on-5 than Hakanpää, but he's going to have to show that he can move the puck exceptionally well and even create some offense on the other end too. It's not going to be enough just to be just as good 5-on-5. He's going to have to be substantially better and then show a little bit of offense too, because he's not going to do it on the penalty kill.
The big problem is that he doesn't hit as much as Hakanpää does. Hakanpää is our hits leader. I mean, whether that's a good or bad thing, that can be debated, because it probably isn't a good thing. But if the only person who's hitting on your team is taken out of the lineup, who's going to hit? And the answer is pretty much no one. So it's hard to take one of your physical leaders in a game out like that, even if he doesn't have a lot of impact in other parts of the game.
Yeah, especially when you come into the playoffs. Even just making it harder for F1 forecheckers to make big hits. I mean, and F1's going to think twice of when he's trying to make a hit on Hakanpää. If he sees Nils Lundkvist back there, he's going to run him. And that can make a difference momentum-wise even in the playoffs.
James, I'm going to disagree with you slightly on the comment about hitting, being the hits leader being a bad thing. Because if there's any like major factor that I don't like about the Stars is when things get tough, they're not really a super physical team. They can be, and they have the guys to be able to do it. It's just that, especially like the Philadelphia game, for example, when things get really tough, or the Florida game, we didn't really see any like physical answer from the Dallas Stars after getting their butts kicked, right?
Yeah.
So I think hits can be important, and when you've got guys like Ben and Marchment, and to a certain extent, Robo has shown a little bit of physicality this year too, but Hakanpää being the hits leader, I think that can be really important in the playoffs.
I think what would be more important in those games, like you mentioned, when you needed a spark or you need something to change momentum, would be an individual play. And that's when you're looking towards Ben to do something crazy or Marchment to make a big hit. And that's like an individual one-time thing. I think for the way this Stars team plays, yeah, you can complain about it, and I fully understand, especially if you're a classic hockey guy like our dad is, that it can be frustrating sometimes not to see some of the physicality. That's not the way this team plays, and it's rewarded them. I mean, I think we are the least penalized team. If not, we're very low
least,
on
yeah.
the penalties, and it's a quick team that has defenders that are really great at stick checking and has big defenders who you can't really push around too. Is the other thing. It's not just, yeah, we don't throw a lot of hits, but it's hard for other teams to hit us too on the back end, especially with how big our guys are. So yeah, I don't know. I think Hakanpää should have the most hits, and I think it's good that he does. But I don't think hitting is kind of something that we need to look for, that we need to be doing more of. That's just not our game.
And that's fair. All right. What are you expecting from Nils Lundkvist in this game? Just solid bottom pairing minutes, or do you want to see him do something flashy and make himself deservedly stay in the lineup?
Yeah, I think he's going to get those sheltered minutes like we've seen. I think he's going to get 11, 12 minutes. But if he wants to force his way into the lineup, he's going to have to do something, especially offensively and moving the puck out of his own zone. I don't think there's a way really he can fight his way back into the lineup this late in the season.
It's tough to show you have more worth of the person who's been playing on the penalty kill all season long and is just 6 inches taller than you.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's a lot to make up in 15 games.
Right. And this is the guy who has arguably been in the top 4 before the Stars went out and got Chris Tanev, right? Hakanpää has been the number 4 defenseman for the Dallas Stars.
And is still your PK1 right defenseman.
Yeah. Although we've seen a little bit more experimentation from the Stars coaching staff when it comes to the PK with all the defenseman choices they've tried.
Yeah, I think
they've tried. I mean, there's nothing they haven't tried that I have seen recently, and
yeah,
unfortunately, that's. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think it's more of a recent thing because Hakanpää had played so bad the last week, which maybe this is why he's played. Maybe it's been a little bit nagging, and they're trying to give him a full week when we've had these little bit of extra days off to kind of finally get over it. So, yeah, I think it's more so Hakanpää has been playing bad. Why we've been seeing that. I think if he gets back to form, we'd still see Lindell Hakanpää try it out there each time.
Well, this is something that he's been dealing with for a while, guys. If I remember correctly,
how do you know that, insider?
Because he missed games earlier in the season. Didn't he have a short period of time where he missed a couple of games, probably with the same injury?
That was a while ago, though, wasn't it?
He's gone off and on that day-to-day stuff, kind of like how Rope Hintz did in that shortened COVID season.
Not nearly as much though, because Rope was like
not as much.
Literally every other game. Yeah,
but I'm scared that it might be a lingering from last playoffs when he did have a lower body injury, and that can be tough to recover from. And I hope it's not that, but it's just off and on for the year. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm pulling a Ryan here, but I think it is odd that we're seeing him go out now with the injury after we've been complaining for the last week and a half that he hasn't looked like himself too. So I'll pull a Ryan and say maybe it's been that way for a little bit.
All right. It's the question I want to ask. Moving on from the defenseman. Goaltending. Goaltending has been a topic of debate for Stars fans the last couple of days and maybe even the last week. And the only reason why is we have not seen very good quality starts out of Jake Ottinger lately. And then we see a very good outing by Scott Wedgwood in the game on Saturday. And I don't agree with this, obviously. And we've talked about this, but the only way the Stars are going to make a deep playoff run is off the back of Jake Ottinger. And it's no offense to Scott Wedgwood. It is absolutely no offense to Scott Wedgwood. But he does not have the same potential that Jake Ottinger has. And obviously, because we saw in 2022, when Jake Ottinger faced off against the Flames, he almost single-handedly defeated the Flames by himself. and he looked completely shocked when Johnny Gaudreau ended Game 7 in overtime. He's like, I actually let one behind me? There's no way. So if the Stars started the playoffs tomorrow, let's just assume that, playoffs started tomorrow. Who would you put in net for the Dallas Stars for Game 1? Would you put Scott Wedgwood or would you put Jake Ottinger?
Yeah, for me, it'd have to be Jake Ottinger. I agree. He's kind of the guy you need to ride, and we have seen that greatness in him. My only issue is we just haven't seen it this year. I mean, I can count maybe 3 games where we saw the Ottinger that we expect to see this season, and it hasn't been there. Luckily for us, this team is good enough to kind of do this without him if they have to. Like, we'd have to be clicking, but this team is good enough to go deep in the playoffs, even if Jake Ottinger isn't playing great. And you can see that from last year. Jake Ottinger, he played fine in the playoffs, but he wasn't any Calgary Flames Jake Ottinger when he broke onto the big stage in the NHL. So Ottinger has a little more time than just round 1 to figure it out. But I really think the Stars' best bet is to keep giving Jake the net like we've been expecting, give him rest more than we did last year, obviously, especially coming down the stretch. Having a lighter schedule will help with that too. But you got to ride with the guy who's been your starter for the past 3 years, who has done so great in the playoffs. And we just have to hope he either figures out for the playoffs or he does what some goalies can do and just turn it on. Wedgwood might be able to do something crazy. I mean, that's what we saw with Hudobin in the bubble playoffs. So I'll never say never on that, but I would not do that unless we absolutely have to. Other than that, I give it to Otter.
I would start Otter in Game 1 as well, but I would kind of expect Wedgwood in Game 2 if it wasn't an outstanding performance from him. That's like the other part of it. So like, yes, Otter is still going to probably start the playoffs regardless of what happens. But like, if Wedgwood is still playing good all the way down and through the end of the regular season, you for sure do a 1-2 tandem like that if he still struggles in Game 1, like even remotely. Like it's tough to argue Otter should have it when you just look at stats alone, because Otter has not been good this year. He's played 43 games now, has just under 900 save percentage and averages just over 3 goals a game. So the Stars typically have to score 4 in a game to win. And with this team, they can, and they do regularly. It's just that's not something that you want to have to do every single time. And this year, it's been pretty much all season long.
And that's a great point, James. Last year, that was not on the table at all. At any point, Otter could have been fully blown out, and he was a couple times. And Wedgwood would not have started the next game. Doesn't matter. But that is absolutely on the table if the goalie situation stays as it is now. And that's kind of a crazy thing to think about.
Well, the other way you have to view this too, and some people are not viewing it this way, but this is not a Boston tandem. Like Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark together, I would argue are the best goalie tandem in the NHL. You trade Linus Ullmark to another team, Jeremy Swayman is perfectly capable of being a starter. He is. And then vice versa. If you trade Swayman away, Ullmark is obviously perfectly capable of being a goaltender. With the Stars, if you trade away Jake Ottinger, no offense to Wedgwood, but he's not at that level. Yeah. So we have to be able to rely upon Ottinger to really get his game in. And I'm really hoping that this long break that he's getting, and I'm assuming he's going to start the game tomorrow night. He last played on Thursday. And is that correct?
Yeah.
Trying to remember. Yeah. He last played Thursday. He didn't play Saturday. And then the Stars have had a 3-day break. So it's basically almost been a week since he has made a start in the NHL. So maybe that extra rest will be good for him. But I do want to pull up the stat because I think I slightly mishapped on the stat I mentioned a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, that makes sense because I was shocked by that number. I was like, "There's no way."
Yes. Okay. So it was the goals saved above expected. Okay, not per 60, but just goals saved above expected.
Okay.
Yeah,
not
he's at minus 6.7. So
But that's not per 60. That's over the whole
that's not
season.
per 60. That would be crazy. Yes.
Okay.
So in the NHL this season, and this is according to Money Puck, they have stats on 94 goaltenders. Where do you think Jake Ottinger rates
I've looked
among
at
that
this
94?
65.
already, so.
65? James, what do you think?
I think it's somewhere in the 70s.
Guys, he's ranked 84 out of 94 goaltenders in
That's
goals
bad.
saved above expected. That's really bad. And you know who's just above him, 2 spots above him?
Wedgwood.
Wedgwood.
That's not good either.
So according to the stats, at least according to Money Puck, both of these guys have let in 13 goals that they shouldn't have.
And if you believe that
So-
stat, which these advanced analytics you do have to take with a grain of salt, I will say
Yes,
that.
you do.
Um,
But there's something
that-
there is something to it though, at least a little bit.
yes, but that would show that the defense has actually been pretty good for the Stars, and that it is more on the goaltending than it is the defense with an expected goals minus that much. But hey, that's just a theory.
I hate you.
Ryan doesn't even get it. Moving on.
Anyways, I'm just gonna ignore
Rip
ignore
Matt
Chris.
Pat.
Anyways, moving on.
It's not dead, by the way.
He's dead. He's dead to me.
Not dead, by
Moving
the way.
on.
He's dead to me.
Moving on. The Stars and who they play in the first round is really starting to become interesting, guys. Because at some point and at some figure, I don't necessarily want to win the division. And here's why. I know this seems weird, okay?
I know
but
why.
Yeah, James knows why. Okay,
I
so
don't
you
like
got-
that team in that first wild card spot right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting into.
Terrifying.
So Nashville currently has been on an absolute tear right now. I think it's 14 games, 14 game point streak that they've had. And basically since the Stars blew them out of the water 9-2 and they canceled that concert in Las Vegas at is it called the Dome or whatever? You guys know what I'm talking about. The really expensive dome in Las Vegas. They've just been ridiculous. And whoever wins the division is more than likely going to end up playing Nashville in the first round. And if they continue this tear all the way to the end of the season, that's not something I would rather play. I mean, I'd rather take my chances against Colorado right now than play Nashville, just because the opportunity for you to underestimate the Predators just because they're in the first wild card is a real possibility.
Yeah. So I agree that Nashville looks scary right now, but this isn't the first time they've done that this season either. This is the second time where they've gone in a very long tear where they're just winning a bunch of games, which means that they also have to lose a bunch of games in a row this season to be in the spot they are in right now. I mean, it is their team is very hot and cold, and it rides a lot on how their players feel game in and game out. And I honestly don't expect them to be able to sustain it for that long. We're getting to the edge of where they were last time they had this streak. And after they were done, they just they blew up and they dropped off a cliff. So I see your point where the team looks really scary right now. And that's something that you could say about Edmonton when they went on that 16-game winning streak. It's like, yes, the team looks scary, but by the time you get to playoffs, what are they looking like then? And what do I expect them to look like is not as good as they're playing right now.
Yeah,
so you think Nashville is this year's Winnipeg Jets, basically?
They are overplaying their hand massively right now.
Yeah, and there's only one thing scarier than the Jets record or than the Preds record in the last 10. They're 8-0-2. There's only one thing scarier than that. Colorado Avalanche 9-1. So yeah, the Preds are playing pretty great. I'd rather play them than the Nathan McKinnons. I mean, that guy is going out of his mind. 7-game win streak for the Avs.
Yeah, they have been playing very well as of late. And again, I don't think it's ironic that they start playing better when Valnichuskin comes back. So he comes out of the player assistance program and they immediately click it on.
Yeah, and honestly, the team I'm most scared to play is the Avalanche. So I think against the Preds in a 7-game series, the Stars wear down that defense and can take care of business. We saw what happened when when Bonus coaches the Stars, we saw what happened in a 7-game series there. Stars barely held on for dear life and tried to survive to 7 games, and really it was Jake Ottinger who did all of it. And was the only reason it went to 7. So I think the Stars could take care of that and bust that defense wide open. And honestly, the Preds, like James said, they're not going to stay on this all the way to the playoffs and then through the playoffs, through the first round. So I'm not worried about that either. The team I'm scared of is the Avalanche.
Yeah. And I'll side a little bit with Ryan that I wouldn't mind playing the Avalanche. The Avalanche are scary. The Stars have not had a fair shot against this Avalanche team all season long and are not going to get one until they possibly play them in the playoffs. I mean, we play them on the second night of back-to-backs.
Again,
3 out of 4 times this season. That's stupid. It really is. It's a terrible schedule to figure out how you match up against this team. And to the Stars' credit, most of those games have looked fine against the Avalanche. There's been one where they got blown away, and it's just like, okay, whatever. But
and the other two, they outplayed them when they were tired and then blew it at the end.
And then blew it. Yeah. It's tough for me to agree with the Avs would be scary to play in the playoffs when the Stars really have not gotten a fair shot against them.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that 9-1 right now, though, and the way that top line is going, it's crazy. And the depth they got too at the trade deadline. And I know that can be a little bit different when you go to the playoffs trying to get that to click the same way. But man,
if you're able to stop that one top line, though, what is their team? And there is not a lot. The big thing is if you are able to stop the top line.
And the Stars have a great attack piece against top lines, and that's Miro Heiskanen, who can shut down pretty much anyone in the league except Matthew Tkachuk, I guess.
Random side tangent here because Miro Heiskanen, you said that, Chris, and it made me think about a tweet that I saw earlier, and I forget who it was by. Again, I think it might have been Dom Decision or maybe it was Jay Fresh, who does like the analytic cards on Twitter. He is a severely underrated defenseman. I would argue that Miro, as good as he is and as good as he's been, and this has not even been his best season, he is criminally underrated by a lot of people, and they don't talk enough about him. And the thing that makes him criminally underrated, if I can say that word, is his defensive side of the game. He's able to put up points. Yes, not at the same level as Cale Makar or Adam Fox or Quinn Hughes, the guys who are more flashy and stuff like that. But I would argue he's, as an all-around defenseman, I would say and argue that he's better than all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, defensively, I think he definitely is, but offensively, those guys have him pretty much by an equal margin, I think.
Yeah, that's where it's tough to look at Miro Heiskanen, and you see sometimes like he has the offensive ability in there, and you see it every now and then, but
play him on his strong side.
Having Thomas Harley come in and be able to score all these goals is kind of showing me more that Heiskanen just doesn't have the ability to score goals. Assists, sure. He gets way, way, way more assists than Harley does and knows where to put the puck much better than Harley does. But Harley seems to have a better shot and seems to have more of a hunger for scoring than Miro Heiskanen.
And that may just be because Miro's too smart, honestly. Like to get goals, you kind of got to be aggressive and take some risks. And Miro just always makes the right play, is what it feels like. Like he always just super calculated, knows exactly what he's going to do all the time. And maybe that's what leads to him getting more assists rather than shooting the puck and getting the goals. But yeah, I like your comment, Ryan. What does the strong side do? We still don't know. We haven't seen an extended experiment with that yet. And we won't see it this year, unfortunately, but still holding out hope that will come to fruition at some point.
I mean, you could see it this year depending on injuries. That's all I'm going to say.
There is some truth
on us, James.
I'm not saying anything other than that.
Hey, well, you already made some of those predictions in that one game, and you made the prediction of us winning the Stanley Cup, and now you've got that. Takes a lot, James. Now we're going to expect someone to get hurt. Okay. I'm just kidding.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anyways, back to the Central Division. Sorry, random tangent there. How do you think the Central Division is going to end up? Where do you see the Avs? Where do you see Colorado? Where do you see Dallas? And where do you see the Jets? 1, 2, 3. How do you think it's going to be lined up?
I'll say Avs, Stars, Jets. I think the Avs are just too hot right now, and that's a team that I think can keep that momentum going through the end of the season.
I don't want to say my prediction. I think the Stars are probably going to end up third. I'm not going to lie. Based off of how well the Jets and Avs have played recently, and the Jets really have started to pick it up more and more, and they've just been getting they've been getting more solid. It's not a flashy team, but they are just they're going to get points no matter what. And Dallas right now looks very shaky, at least in the regular season. And we've seen before the Stars tend to taper off a little when there's these teams chasing them. It feels. I mean, they tend to lose out in races.
But now we're in third, so we're chasing them, so we're good. But yeah, the scary thing for me is the Jets are finally scoring too. But also, how long does that last? I don't know that the Jets keep scoring the way that they are right now all the way through the playoffs.
Especially in a bonus system, right? Which we know all too well about, right? So I would agree with you, James, except for one thing and one thing alone is the Stars' strength of schedule. So Uri Kralik, friend of the show, go follow him on X. He put out a little graph about, teams in the hunt, teams in the playoffs, and the remaining games that they have and who they're against and stuff like that. The Stars' strength of schedule is very low compared to the Avs and the Jets. Now, the Avs and the Jets don't have a ridiculously hard schedule like some other teams do, but their schedule still is much harder than the Stars is. So I know that I think we do. I know we see Colorado again. Do we see Winnipeg again?
Before the one more time.
And we see Vancouver. So, those are the 3 big games remaining.
That's right. Okay, so those are the 3 remaining games that are the big games. And the rest of them are not.
Yeah, they're either bubble teams or they're out.
So the thing is if the Stars can get their act together, they're at least number 2.
It's a big
But based off of the way the Avs are playing right now, James, I have to agree with Chris and say that the Avs will probably win the division. Dallas will get second home ice advantage against the Jets in the first round of the playoffs. So 1, 2, 3,
Jets, baby.
Yeah, I mean we played well. We played well against the Jets this season, and I think it was David Castillo had a little poll on X that I saw, and the question was, who would you like to see the Stars play in the playoffs? And I was like, obviously, the Jets, and it was like 80%, I think, something like that.
It's a really, really good matchup for the Stars against the Jets. It's a super defensive team that doesn't score a ton. And the Stars are a really, really, really offensive team that tends to play well against good defenses, to be honest. I mean, we scored 4 goals on multiple defenses in the past couple of weeks that normally average under 3 a game. And that's a big deal for the Stars. That is their identity this season, is scoring goals, which is crazy to say.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe a playoff series against a subpar offense is exactly what Otter needs to settle into a playoff groove. A little bit of foresight, maybe. I'll call it early.
And you look at who's 1-2 in the league and goals for, the Avalanche and the Stars.
Yep.
They're in the same division.
Not fair.
But wouldn't that be fun to see a first round series between those 7-6 every night? 7-6 every night.
Definitely want to see that playoff matchup. That should be really fun regardless.
Well, I wanted to dive into some other stuff here tonight, but we're already kind of running out of time with our pseudo time limit of an hour. So
lightning round.
Okay. Let's see. Did y'all see the thing about the Penguins losing the 18,000 bobbleheads?
Yeah, that's crazy. Someone's got to get fired. I don't know who it is, but fire somebody.
Okay,
that's a lot of bobbleheads.
So here's the thing I didn't understand. So at first I thought it was real, and then they had a post with Yager driving a Penn's truck, a Ford truck, because I guess it was being sponsored by Ford, and there was a bobblehead in the passenger seat. So everyone thought, oh well, we got played by the social media team of the Pittsburgh Penguins. No, so it actually got stolen. The 18,000 actually got stolen. But then the social media team actually took advantage of the situation and then created that little video in response to the 18,000 bobbleheads being stolen. I thought that was hilarious, and I thought that was a huge W for the Pittsburgh Penguins team. I mean, seriously, I thought it was hilarious. I don't know.
That was not very lightning-y, Ryan.
Sorry. I thought it was funny. Expansion requests. Did you see the new expansion request from Atlanta? What's the possibility of Atlanta getting a third NHL franchise?
I think it's a bad idea. Atlanta's not a good sports city. Even their big 3 teams, like, they've been good, and they haven't had tons of support, I feel like.
James.
Yeah, I feel like it should make sense, but they've tried it twice there already, and it doesn't work. And it's been proven to not work multiple times now.
Salt Lake, I like, because they have some pretty passionate fans. They were super upset with the Sonics left, and there's so much momentum to try and get them back. I think they will rally behind a hockey team, even if they don't know what a stick is.
Okay. Did you see the Arizona news about their ability to buy land in Northeast Phoenix? What is the chances that they actually win the bid?
Give up. Go back to Canada.
They're gonna lose.
Go back to Canada? You think they're gonna move to Canada?
No, I don't think they're gonna move to Canada. I think they're probably moving to either Atlanta or Salt Lake. Maybe they go to Houston.
That's what I think. I think before expansion is even a question, which it's right now, they're just looking at it. They're not considering it.
I hope they don't.
But they have to figure out the arena situation in Arizona before I feel like they can consider the expansion stuff, right?
The situation is there is not an arena.
Yeah. So there is some land, and we will know in about 10 weeks if they win the bid. If they win the bid, then they're staying in Arizona. But Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts kind of said, I think this is the last ditch effort. If they don't win the auction, then they're 100% moving to somewhere. I hope it's Houston. That'd be cool. Did you see any of the proposed rule changes at the GM meetings in Florida?
Yes, there's too many of them for the lightning round, I think, though.
Okay, well, let's just do one. The first one is kind of interesting, guys. So they're looking for a video review for puck over the glass calls and like high sticking calls. So like, when it's friendly fire, if it's friendly fire, you can, challenge it and then not get the penalty. But if you're wrong, it becomes a 5-on-3. Thoughts?
Holy moly.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
5-on-3 for 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea because it should be like a really cut and dry thing. Like those are two penalties that are like obvious. It should be on replay. And if you do get the obvious one wrong, I like that you're giving the other team a goal pretty much. I think that is the correct punishment for missing something like that and for slowing the game down.
Yeah, I agree.
Easy enough. Lightning round. Okay. There's some other things too, but we can save those for another day. They're not nothing major like those. Okay. Here we go. We have our first Who Cares segment in a while, you guys. Chris, what's our Who Cares segment for the evening?
The Who Cares segment is da dinosaurs. James, number 3.
Okay. Anyway, my number 3 is Triceratops because it's like a rhino, but they have a shield and multiple horns. That is terrifying.
Fancy rhino, Ryan.
I'm gonna go with a Brachiosaurus. I can't imagine those things being alive now and how enormous they are. It's
That's
the
long
long
necked
neck
one, Chris.
Oh.
It's the giant one, the really, really giant one. I would love to be able to see one in person if they were still around, but I would be terrified of it. Anyways, Chris, number 3.
My number 3 is the basic one. It's a raptor. I mean, big old chicken. I love that. James,
I would hardly call something that has razor sharp teeth and like 3-pronged claws a chicken.
Hey, look it up. Big old chicken. James, number 2.
All right. My number 2 is Pteranodon. That is a giant scaly bird. That's kind of scary, but they're cool because they're giant and they can fly. Isn't that dope?
Is that like a bigger pterodactyl?
Yeah.
Pterodactyl?
It's a pterodon.
Well, James kind of stole my thunder a little bit. My number 2 is a pterodactyl. I think those things are so cool. They're so
tiny
cool.
bird dinosaur.
I like pterodactyls. I think they're better than pteranodons or whatever James said.
So pteranodon.
Pteranodons.
My number 2, I am a Stegosaurus. I love the Stegosaurus. What a great dinosaur. Love it. Little spiny things on the back. No one knows what they're for. It's just for style, man. That dinosaur had flair.
I like your reasoning, Chris.
Thank you. James, number 1.
Bronchiosaurus. The thing's just big, and it's so big that things don't mess with it. that was their idea behind their survival. Be big. Yanni Hockeypot took some notes.
Wait, what is that? A Bronchiosaurus?
It's the same thing.
No. Let's say what you said again.
Bronchiosaurus.
Is it the same as a Brachiosaurus? It's just another long neck.
Probably saying it the same. Probably talking about the same thing, but saying it differently. they made up a bunch of names for these things anyway. We don't have to say them correctly.
Right. Oh, what's that? But before I say my number 1, what's that weird dinosaur that starts with the letter A and it's just like a bunch of random letters after it? It's like it's a winged dinosaur. It's like Archipelago.
Nobody has any idea what you're talking about, Ryan. You are alone on this right here. That is
no. I'm gonna find it. Chris, you do your number 1 first while I find it.
He's trying to steal my thunder. That's crazy. He is. Anyway, I don't know what a Brachiosaurus is, but I know what a Brontosaurus is, and that's my favorite long-necked dinosaur. He's even better. Did y'all know that there are so many different kind of long-necked dinosaurs? They got a whole different like subspecies, like genre. It's a whole genre. There are tons of them. I saw this exhibit on them. They're all the way from like little like a Great Dane sized Brachiosaurus all the way up to the big freaking giant ones like y'all are talking about. But my favorite is the Brontosaurus. Don't ask me why. It just is. Ryan.
My number 1 is the typical one because it has to be. It's the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's the coolest dinosaur. It is the absolute coolest dinosaur.
That's very basic.
And it is the only correct number 1 choice for best or favorite dinosaur or whatever.
Overrated dinosaur.
Have
not
you
even
seen
the
his
biggest.
Little arms.
Useless arms.
What are you gonna do with those?
Useless.
What is he gonna do with them?
Who cares? The thing could run apparently like 30 miles an hour, and it's
those are all guesses.
Okay, how would you feel
Could
about
it tie its
that
own
was-
shoes? No.
Okay, shoes didn't exist back then, Chris.
How
But
do
it
you
could-
know?
Because I do.
He doesn't. Bang.
Okay, anyways, here's what I'm talking about. Okay, I can't even pronounce the name, but it's right there. That word right there.
Archaeopteryx?
I'm
That sounds
sure.
close enough.
Yeah.
I said it confidently, so
Yeah, that was pretty good, Chris. That's way better than anything I could have come up with. But see, that's like the coolest looking name ever. And like I said, a bunch of random letters. Like
it looks
ends
like a big
dinosaur
old
name?
chicken.
A big old chicken that can fly. Better than a chicken. Okay. Anything else? Who won? Who won? Who cares?
No one. We all lost.
The dinosaurs won. Who cares?
They're
No,
all
technically,
dead.
the
How did they
dinosaurs lost
win?
because they're all dead. Yeah, thank you, James. Technically,
Rest
the
in-
dinosaurs lost.
Rest in peace, my big old lizard boys.
All right, guys. Thank you, all of you who are listening live with us here tonight. Up to 56. That's where we're at here tonight. Y'all are crazy. Thank you for listening. There's more of you afterwards that are listening. Please consider leaving a 5-star review anywhere you listen to our podcast. That's the best way to help us grow. We really would appreciate that if you would do that. Sarcastic Remarks is the website. Sarcastic Remarks shop is the merch store. Go and check out both of those things. It's the fastest way and the quickest way to get our brand new episodes. And as always, my name is Ryan, and along with Christian James, this has been Sarcastic Remarks, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys have a good, fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you guys are listening. Chris, can you go ahead and do us a GG boys since you weren't here on Saturday?
GG boys, since you weren't here on Saturday.